In August 2025, the world was taken by surprise when the United States announced a dramatic increase in tariffs on Indian goods, raising them to an unprecedented 50%. This sudden move sent shockwaves through global markets as investors and businesses scrambled to assess the impact. Indian exporters who had long relied on the US as a key market faced immediate uncertainty, and the Indian stock market reacted with sharp volatility. The decision was not just a minor adjustment. It represented a fundamental shift in the economic relationship between the two countries. The new tariff rate on Indian goods even surpassed the already high tariffs imposed on Chinese imports, signaling a clear escalation in US trade policy. For many, this was a sign that India was now being viewed through a similar lens as China, no longer a favored partner, but a competitor to be contained. The primary trigger for this drastic action was India's continued purchase of Russian oil, despite repeated warnings from Washington. As global tensions rose, the US adopted a more transactional foreign policy, focusing on immediate gains rather than long-term alliances. This marked a sharp break from the years when the US and India worked closely together on strategic and economic issues, building what many hoped would be a lasting partnership. Under the Trump administration, the approach to foreign policy became more aggressive and self-interested. Tariffs were used as a blunt instrument to pressure other countries, and the administration made it clear that American interests would always come first. The long-term value of US-India ties was sidelined in favor of short-term economic leverage, leaving many in both countries questioning the future of their relationship. The timing of the tariffs could not have been worse. India was already dealing with heightened tensions with Pakistan, and the US was simultaneously making overtures to China, signaling a possible shift in its strategic priorities. For India, this combination of events created a sense of isolation and vulnerability on the world stage. These tariffs were about much more than just trade. They sent a powerful political message, forcing India to rethink its economic strategy, diplomatic relationships, and its place in the global order. Indian policymakers and business leaders were left scrambling to develop new strategies to protect their interests and maintain growth. Ultimately, this marked the beginning of a turbulent and uncertain new era in US-India relations. The consequences of this shift would ripple across both nations, affecting trade, diplomacy, and the balance of power in the region for years to come. When the US imposed 50% tariffs, Indian exporters were dealt a severe blow, one that rippled through the entire economy and left many reeling from the sudden shock. In just a single month, exports to the US plummeted by $1.3 billion, a staggering 20% drop. This wasn't just a number on a chart. It meant fewer shipments leaving Indian ports, idle warehouses, and mounting uncertainty for businesses that depended on global trade. The hardest hit were labor-intensive sectors like garments and Tirupur, where factories saw mass order cancellations almost overnight. For thousands of workers, this translated into sudden layoffs, lost wages, and a growing sense of economic insecurity. Families who relied on these jobs found themselves struggling to make ends meet, with little warning or support. The tariffs also threatened India's China Plus One strategy. Many American companies, hoping to diversify away from China, had shifted their supply chains to India. But now, with tariffs driving up costs, those same companies faced tough choices. Some even reconsidered their investments, putting India's manufacturing ambitions at risk. Small and medium businesses, which form the backbone of India's export sector, were especially vulnerable. Unlike large corporations, they lacked the resources to absorb losses or quickly pivot to new markets. Many faced closure, and owners were left grappling with mounting debts and an uncertain future. The shockwaves from the tariffs exposed just how deeply interconnected and fragile the global economy truly is. Disrupted supply chains, halted shipments, and shifting trade routes revealed the risks of relying too heavily on a single market. For countless Indian workers and entrepreneurs, the tariffs were a harsh reminder that geopolitics can upend livelihoods overnight. The sense of security that came from steady export orders vanished, replaced by anxiety and tough decisions about the future. The mood in India's once bustling industrial hub shifted dramatically, from optimism and growth to crisis and uncertainty, leaving a lasting impact on communities across the country. Instead of retaliating, India chose a strategic, forward-looking response. The government launched a major push to diversify export markets, accelerating trade talks with ASEAN, the EU, and Middle Eastern nations. Indian businesses pivoted to innovation, focusing on quality, technology, and niche markets less vulnerable to tariffs. Textile firms explored smart fabrics, tech companies doubled down on software and digital services. Public-private task forces streamlined export process and supported companies entering new markets. The crisis became a catalyst for building a more resilient, competitive, and diversified Indian economy. India's leaders saw opportunity in adversity, laying the groundwork for long-term strength. Despite ongoing tensions and a challenging global environment, India pressed forward with negotiations for a free trade agreement with the United States. The goal was clear: to secure stable, long-term access to one of the world's largest markets and to shield Indian businesses from unpredictable future shocks. This landmark deal was seen as a strategic move, not just for economic growth, but for strengthening India's position on the world stage. Analysts projected that such a comprehensive agreement could potentially triple Indian exports to the US within a few years, opening up new opportunities for Indian manufacturers, service providers, and farmers. The ripple effect could be enormous, creating millions of new jobs, boosting incomes, and driving innovation across multiple sectors of the Indian economy. However, Indian leaders understood that external agreements alone would not be enough. To truly capitalize on new opportunities, India needed to undertake significant internal reforms, streamlining complex regulations, investing in world-class infrastructure, and modernizing its vast agricultural sector to meet global standards. The government responded by accelerating efforts to lower the cost of doing business, making it easier for entrepreneurs to start and grow companies. Farm subsidies were restructured, shifting from traditional support to direct digital transfers, empowering farmers, and making Indian products more competitive in international markets. These sweeping reforms were not just policy changes, they were essential building blocks for maximizing the benefits of any future trade deal. By creating a more dynamic, efficient, and innovative economy, India positioned itself to take full advantage of global opportunities. India's response to the crisis was not limited to external negotiations. It was about a broader vision, transforming the nation's economy for the challenges and possibilities of the 21st century, and ensuring prosperity for future generations. In the end, the tariff crisis became more than just a diplomatic standoff. It was a turning point that sparked deep, lasting change, setting India on a bold new path toward growth, resilience, and global leadership. The tariffs backfired on American companies, many of which had moved supply chains from China to India to avoid earlier trade wars. Suddenly, their investments in India faced the same high tariffs, creating chaos and uncertainty. US businesses were forced to absorb higher costs or pass them to consumers, fueling inflation and frustration. Some considered reshoring or shifting to Mexico, but these options were costly and complex. The policy, meant to protect US interests, instead destabilized global supply chains and hurt American competitiveness. The lesson: in a connected world, economic walls often trap those who build them. The tariff strategy left American businesses scrambling for stability. The tariff crisis pushed India to deepen ties with Europe, Japan, Australia, and the global South, reducing reliance on the US. India accelerated trade talks and took a leadership role among developing nations, gaining new influence. Strategic realignment also meant carefully managing relations with China and Russia, turning US pressure into opportunities for tactical cooperation. Rather than isolating India, the US tariffs strengthened its global standing as an independent power. India's measured, diplomatic response won respect and positioned it as a key player in a multipolar world. The crisis redefined India's foreign policy, emphasizing autonomy and strategic balance. India emerged not as a junior partner, but as a major force in global affairs. The tariffs, meant to punish, instead galvanized India's government and industry to unite for reform and resilience. Businesses aggressively diversified exports, targeting new markets in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The crisis provided political cover for long-needed reforms, simplifying labor laws, streamlining taxes, and investing in infrastructure. India's economy became more efficient and attractive to investors, both domestic and foreign. The attempt to coerce India backfired, making it stronger and more self-reliant. The country emerged with a broader export base, a more competitive economy, and a confident, independent foreign policy. The tariffs became a catalyst for India's accelerated rise as a global power. Rebuilding US-India trust will take time, but shared interests in security and prosperity remain strong. The tariff crisis taught both nations the risks of transactional policies and the value of true partnership. A free trade agreement remains a powerful incentive for renewed cooperation and growth. For India, the crisis spurred innovation, reform, and global leadership, turning adversity into opportunity. India's young population, growing economy, and democratic values position it for a leading global role. The story of the tariffs is ultimately one of resilience and hope. India adapted, evolved, and emerged stronger. By working together as respectful partners, the US and India can build a more stable, prosperous future for both nations.